it's true. That's why I'm in my pajama mode. I apologize for this, but I'm really like low energy. So I'm happy to be with you. I have to say that first.
Well, we are happy to have your time, even at this point where you are a little low energy, because the audience here is bringing the energy. This is a challenging.
Don't get me wrong. I'm super happy to be here, and I'm not contagious. But one thing I'm really moved to see so many people tonight. Thank you very much, and I'm very moved also that you took the time to come to watch the movie in a theater. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Since we're discussing watching this movie in a theater, I would love to kind of start with the visuals of this film, because Dune Part 1 was already kind of such a visual feast, and you and Greg Fraser kind of upped the ante with this one. I was watching you did a Friday's Directors on Directors with Luca Guadagnino, and he mentioned that first scene where the Harkonnens are climbing up that mountain. I remember watching that moment and just being like, oh wow, they're really elevating this far beyond what you laid out in the first film. Tell me a little bit about those kind of early conversations that you and Greg had about the types of things you wanted to do and experiment with this movie.
Yeah, the thing is that from production design to cinematography, we wanted to keep the spirit of the first one, but it was important for us to make sure that the audience will not have the feeling to put, you know that feeling when you put back your old, cold swimsuit? and we wanted to make sure that there will be some, we will put more adrenaline and more momentum in the form and the language. I tried to keep, the idea was to keep the same alphabet that we had developed with part one, but to push it forward and to move gear up and so to have like an acceleration, more speed in the mise en scène and in the editing and the design of the shots themselves, and also there was like something with the color palette of the film, also to push it in a different direction. Starting the movie, trying to destabilize the audience right at the start with the idea of that eclipse that will make sure that we will not have that feeling of deja vu right from the start, and bringing the idea that the Fremen are using nature as a weapon, and the idea that they will attack at the moment where the eclipse is dimming, and the first sequence had been designed also to try to be a recap without dialogue, trying to bring back all the characters, all the dynamics, and the landscape with as less exposition as possible.
Well, because that is the challenge. You are introducing this world, as you said, kind of reintroducing it to people who've seen part one. Maybe there are some people who skipped part one and are jumping into part two. You have to find a way to kind of explain a lot of these dynamics in a very, very quick way. And the idea, kind of for so long has been that, Frank Herbert's book is unadaptable, but you were able to, in parts 1 and 2, kind of complete this arc that we're getting with Paul from hero to anti-hero. What was kind of your key to doing that?
Well, first of all, the book is kind of unadaptable. I mean, it's like a way of, in order to, I brought the screen a part of the book, the penitentiary aspect at the side of the book. It's for those who read the book, you know that there's a lot of factions, a lot of aspect that I put aside, or I just barely brought to the screen. I focused on the female aspect of the story. The main change that we did, John Spade and I, from the book to the screen is we transformed Zendaya's character, Shen. In the book, the character Shen is a character that is walk in the shadow of Paul. She believes in him, she revered him. I decided to give her own agenda, her own perspective in the world. I decided to create that fraction in the Fremen on believers and on non-believers. Idea that came from where I came from. And the idea was that when the book came out, Frank Herbert was disappointed the way the book was perceived because people, for obvious reasons at the time, thought the book was a celebration of Paul-Atreides, but he wanted to do the opposite. He wanted to do a cautionary tale. And in order to correct that perception, he wrote a second book called Dune Messiah. And John and I knew about that, and the way to try to be faithful to Frank Herbert, to his initial desires, was to transform Shelley, and that in the third act we slightly glide our perspective. Shelley becomes our moral compass, and through her eyes we can see that Paul took the wrong decisions, and that was very important. Let's say that the film is more faithful to Frank Herbert, to his initial desires, than to the book.
Tell me a little bit about centering that love story, because I've heard you say how important it is for the audience to be so invested in Paul and Chani's relationship before he makes that choice at the end.
Yeah, for that very reason, the whole restructure on their love story, because through their love story we will understand how we will discover the Fremen culture, we will immerse ourselves through Paul's eyes in the Fremen culture, through his love to Shelley, we will discover their culture, and then we will feel the pressure on their couple from the politics of the world, and then that decision, when he makes a decision and betray her. And so I kept saying to the crew, if you don't believe in the love story, there's no film. It was my main focus as I was doing this film. It was to make sure that despite the scope, despite the distraction of the all action sequences, it was to make sure that the audience will follow the dramatic curve, which is the essence of this story.
I mean, we all kind of want to hitch a ride on a sandworm away after that moment, because how dare he? But we get it. We know where the story was going. To that idea, what conversations did you have with Timothy first and Zendaya about the kind of arc that this one was going to take? How did you all, what were you kind of discussing about, Paul's turn here and this idea that, is he corrupted by power? What was the...
Paul faced a dilemma. I mean, he's hypersensitive to the substance that is spies that give him insight about premonitions, strong intuition about what could be the future, and he can see, feel things in advance, and he knows that he has to walk a very narrow path in order to survive, to make sure that all his friends will survive, but there will be a massive price to pay for that, and he will have to betray his own heart, and becomes what he was afraid to become. He will become a colonizer himself. He will betray the culture he loved so much, and that is something that Timothy was really excited about. That's the beauty. Is like I dare to say the Michael Corleone side of Paul Atreides. The idea that the character that becomes what he was, who embraces heritage and it's something that brings substance to Paul Atreides. The idea of the cautionary tale was something that was essential to us, that the movie would be a warning against the danger of blending religion and politics together. And it's something that Timothy was aware of since part one, and we were prepping for that. In a way, for me and my crew and my cast, part one was a kind of massive rehearsal to be part two, because part two was much more of a beast. It was like the most challenging thing I ever did in my life. It was by the complexity of each scene and the way we did them. It was like, something that, I will not do that very often.
Is there one scene that comes to mind when you say that? When you say this is the most complex thing you've ever done? Is there one that just immediately pops into your head and you're like,
But
That-
for me, I will say that when it's technical stuff like the worm ride, it's one of the complex things I've done in my life, but it is fun to do. I'm not stressful. It's not stressful. There's a tremendous amount of preparation. It's like playing Lego, you know. It's like it's fun to do. Where it's more tricky is when you deal with human relationships and a scene like the final scene where the fight and that scene had to be shot. I work with one single camera, so to make sure, because I don't want to compromise with lenses to have to make sure that I will make sure that all the dynamics of each character will land precisely at the right moment. So it's a mathematical equation that that kept me awake at night. So it's like that's what I say. Sometimes in movies like that, it's not the scope, it's the intimacy for me that's more difficult.
Well, that is what's so incredible about that final scene, is because, of course, yes, this is the one time in this film where you pretty much have the majority of the ensemble is all there together, but it is those kind of little moments. The idea of, Charlie and Florence and Zendaya seeing each other kind of from across. Obviously we understand filmmaking, and you're not, you don't have two cameras looking at each of them in that moment, but it feels very important to see them see each other, and then you wonder as the audience, what part of the calculation are they understanding about their place in this decision Paul's going to make?
I will say this, I was blessed during this movie because I work with incredible artists, and the cast, like the scene we're talking about, where both young actresses had almost no lines, but were acting and just listening to what was happening, and we were seeing it in their eyes, all the drama unfolding. I mean, for me, it's always, I always love actors that are good listeners, actors that you can keep the camera on their eyes as they witness the whole scene, and that you see everything happening. And Zendaya was absolutely formidable, incredible. And I put a lot of pressure on her shoulder at the end. And I'm very proud of what Zendaya did.
It truly is incredible work, and you see that really from everyone in your ensemble, because as you said, we have the moments of the reaction, but then we also have the action. You have Timothy and Austin really going at it in this incredible fight scene. And of course, not just that one, everybody has a lot of action in this film. Before we talk about their fight there, I do want to talk about the arena and all of the facets of that. I mean, first, of course, the idea of using the infrared. That is kind of one of those things that I understand you and Greg kind of started playing around with in pre-production. And then, we get what we see on the screen.
But the thing is, it all started with the idea that there's a thing I love in the book is the fact that Frank Herbert explored the relationship between the environment, the ecosystem, and the impact on the human culture, on behaviors, on religions, on technique, on technology, etc. I love how when you observe the desert, you understand the fragment, and it's very present in the book. And it's something as a kid that I absolutely love. And but about the alkaline world, the bad guys world, we know that the planet is industrialized, that it's cut out of nature, that it destroyed the environment. And I was looking for hints about nature, the natural world of the alkaline, what could give us hints about their psyche, how they were shaped by their environment. And I thought about the idea that, what about the light? What about if the sunlight was, instead of revealing colors, or killing colors? What it will inform us about this world, this fascist world, this binary world, this world that is where is it a word in English? Uniformized, a world where everybody looks at the same. Sorry. And I thought about shooting the natural light like this in black and white, and Greg of course loved the idea. It was in the screenplay. It was something that came out as we were writing the screenplay, Greg, as we were experimenting with a different type of black and white, he came with the idea of using IR, infrared. And the infrared usually in cameras is cut out. It's a wavelength that is distort the image and create problems with colors. But this time we played with the software of the cameras and we just killed all the colors, but just let the infrared came in and with some specific lenses and filters as well. And that created that eerie look that I absolutely adore, which is like you see through the skin becomes like translucent. All characters look like vampires, and you see all of the. In fact, you see the blood, the veins under the skin, and the eyes become like insect-like. And but the thing about the infrared is that there's no way back once you shoot and that I had to explain to that. I did explain that to the studio. I love how they were fearless. So I agree with the proposition. Because you cannot make bad colors or something. It's quite radical, and it's because infrared is pretty unpredictable. I could shoot if we were shooting both of us in infrared right now. This could come out like gray and this white, and my shoes black. So and we did turns and a lot of tests, and we didn't figure out why exactly some leather or some cotton or some polyester or Swift. So we had to test all the costumes because I didn't want Austin Butler to walk in front of the IR camera and looks like a clown, and I wanted to stay black. So we had to test all the fabrics and the set design. Everything had to be tested prior to that. That was quite strange. Something even one of the stuntmen was covered with tattoos, so it's easy what you do. You cover with makeup, and it's but when it came on the day in front of the camera, we were seeing through the makeup. That I still don't understand because we were not seeing through a stunt makeup, but through the stuntman, we were seeing all these contemporary tattoos. So it's, let's say that's my VFX supervisor, Paul Lambert, freaked out. I said, what do we do? But yeah, it's a strange wavelength.
Contemporary tattoos will take you a little bit off planet. But that is the beauty of what you've done here and what all of the people, when we come out, we kind of take our time and finish through this, I don't know, 3-4 minutes of credits. And it is a testament to all of those people who spent all of this time and energy and thought and care into putting an epic like this together. When you kind of think about being a kid, reading Dune, and falling in love with the book, what is it like now being at this point where you've finished the novel?
When I started the project, it's something I said when we did part one. The first person, the first artist I got in contact with was Hans Zimmer, because I knew that Hans shared the same love, the same passion about the book as I do. And as we were having a dinner together, our first, let's say, meeting together about Hans looked at me with gravitas and I said, is it a good idea to try to bring to the screen our childhood screens? We were meant to fail. I mean, it's like, it's not possible. You can reach a certain amount of, you can bring a certain amount of your mental images to the screen. And there's a lot of them, which brings me joy, but there was a lot of transformation that were necessary to make this adaptation. And that was a very challenging, interesting process, and I'm still digesting it. I mean, I have to pitch myself that I finished this adaptation. And it will take me years to recover from it. It's always and the space that is there between the dream that I had and the thing that space gave me hope, because it means there's room to evolve. if I had brought the exact dream, I don't know what I have done. Maybe I would have stopped. I don't know. You understand what I mean? No, it's not clear. Sorry. Okay.
No, it makes complete sense. I will ask you this as we wrap up this conversation. Today, when you think about this movie, it's hard to pick your favorite child, but is there one particular scene or moment that stands out to you that you say, I'm really proud of that one today?
But then when you finish a film, I think, honestly, I cannot speak to all filmmakers, of course, but for me, when I finish a film, I try to keep my own relationship with the object, and because I see where I succeeded, and I see where I failed. It's normal. I mean, it's a joy and pain, and that's what I was trying to express with you. But something that I brought, so the thing that I feel that the images I had in my mind when I read the book, it's the worm ride. When I look at the worm ride, the energy, what I was trying to convey cinematically is on screen, and that brings me a lot of joy.
Can I say one more thing about the worm ride? Because it's not just the actual feat of the stunt, but it's also watching Javier throughout that entire sequence. Because it's saying so many things about him as a believer, also as just kind of like a mentor. There's so many different emotions that he's going through as we're waiting to see if Paul's going to do this successfully. It's brilliant.
No, but that's the thing. I work with fantastic actors. And is one of them. And you can, with actors of that talent, you can go and create little moments like that. It was beautiful to see. At this moment, as you rightly said, he's a mentor, he's a father figure, and he conveyed this idea of that beautiful human being that is have faith, believes in something that I think is the right way to do, and it becomes a tragic figure. For me, Stegner is the most tragic figure in this film, and I love all the humanity that Javier Bardem brought to the character.
Listen, we could dig into prophecy versus propaganda and all kinds of things for a few hours, but we appreciate all of your time, and mostly we all appreciate you, Denis. Thank you so much.